Good morning, everybody. Real pleasure to be here today. Back in September, I had the honor of going to the United Help Ukraine Gala. And there, I walked in and I was trying to find a seat. And there was one seat and I saw it. It was a nice center seat and came in and sat down. And off to my right, I saw Andrii and Alina. And Alina whispered something to Andrii, and Andrii reached up, we greeted each other, and we proceeded to have like 20 minutes of the best conversation. This guy's a joker, so and then later on, he turns out he was a keynote speaker, and so got up there, did an amazing job. I know you're usually not to make the error of setting expectations too high. I don't think there's a problem today. Andrii and Alina are a great team here. They're obviously here for helping Andrii and Walter read, but more than that, Andrii is doing a lot of work to help others. And that's why I think he should become a Rotarian when he goes back to Ukraine one day. Yep, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Amen. And Alina too, of course. So I will now, since I have a tiny cold, can we have another microphone that I haven't touched? Alina, right there. Grab that one right there, and I'll try to disinfect this one. I will put on my mask now that I've done my introduction, and we will pass it over to our speaker.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet everybody here. Well, first of all, thank you for having us here. We heard a lot about Rotarians and Rotary Club in general all over the world, and know the tremendous job your organization is doing. So it's definitely a great chance for us to meet all of you here, and we're really grateful that you had us today. So I want to start because David raised expectations so high. So just lower down, when we were driving in a car with David said, Andrii, sorry, like you need to wait a little bit until we're gonna figure out our administration stuff at the beginning. And I answered him, well, I'm gonna do revenge and do the most boring presentation for the next 20 minutes. So, well, nice to meet you guys. My name is Andrii Smolenskyi. I'm Ukrainian. I was born in Kyiv. It's our capital there. Today I want to talk a little bit about my organization, about what we are doing, and how maybe we can, integrate each other to our lives. First of all, a little bit about me. I started my career like 10 years ago. I was a young guy. You can see it on the slide. Really kind of happy man, doing my career in one of the biggest world corporations in assurance services, which is Ernst & Young. And basically, everything was really great there. This is the photo from the beginning of my career. If you look carefully on me right now, that's what you're going to see, the results of corporate life on people, that's how they treat, their advisors and all that. Yeah, honestly, I did a great career in like assurance. Then I switched to strategy consultancy, and then I ended up working in biggest Ukrainian mining and metal company. It's generating something like 20% of our GDP in Ukraine. But everything's changed. I have been working as a risk manager there, and I definitely want to talk a little bit about risks today. So everything's changed when the war started in Ukraine. It's a great, huge risks that realized in our country, impacted our economy, but also impacted our personal lives severely. And the big change came into my life. I made my decision because in the face of big problems and challenges, I always try and not to run away, not to stand still, but actually answer the call. So I immediately joined the military forces. I never served, but I just felt a strong call in my heart to join the forces, protect my country, protect the free world, protect the values that I have in my family, just as well as my father joined the military forces. Besides the fact that he's 58, So we were fighting. I started basically in reconnaissance, but after first deployment, I quickly realized that drones are the next technology on the battlefield that's going to change everything. And that's how I ended up being the reconnaissance commander. I had 20 guys. We had one of the first units in mechanized infantry that was basically a pilot project of our army, and we ended up doing really successful unit, really effective one, that we're doing reconnaissance and also kamikaze drone operations. So I'm that type of guy that always doing wires in the Bradley, or like putting some antennas somewhere or just flying my drone there, in the skies. So after certain time, a year ago, another big risk realized in my life, and that was obviously I was hardly injured on the front lines during our counteroffensive operation on the south. So I have pretty rare case. At least they tell me so. It's a rare case. We cannot help you. I lost both of my arms and I lost my sight completely. I also now cannot hear on my left ear. So if you're just talking to me and I'm not responding, that's probably because you're just standing on the line of field. So basically, I got injured pretty hard, and this is completely new life, the third life on my account. Basically, from the beginning, we started receiving some answers from the doctor, or something like, "Oh, we cannot prepare rehabilitation plans for you. We cannot provide you certain treatment because we don't know what to do." So we started reaching all the European hospitals, because Ukraine cooperating with all the European hospitals. And we started receiving rejection from all the European hospitals. And that was the point of time when we become really concerned about what's going on in our lives and what we're going to do. Nobody basically helped. And that's how we ended up working and starting our foundation with my wife, because we realized that there is other people on the same floors that are blinded, that lost their arms, or they just have some severe other cases that are left behind because of the complexity of their cases. And in the overwhelmed medical system, those people just sometimes just left behind. So after that, we start pushing really hard. We start fighting for my independence, for just to prove everybody that they are not right. That when they saying it's impossible for you to get rehabilitated, we just wanted to prove that it's just nonsense. So after our certain period of time, we basically created our foundation called Patronum, which is a main focus of which is basically the most severe complex cases. We believe that these people is the people that struggle the most of causes of wars, and these are the people that usually not receiving proper treatment, unfortunately, because these cases are not sexy. It's really a lot of time to work with them. You're not always receiving success, and people just sometimes skipping that to take more easier type of cases. So how we ended up being here, basically, I want to tell a little bit about our key recent activities of our foundation. The first activity was basically because we received rejection was from Ukrainian hospitals, and hospitals all over the Europe, we start thinking what is a good hospital that maybe have some expertise. And we ended up in the United States as the country that fighting all the time and have the most experience. And we started fighting this bureaucracy in Ukraine. That was a 6 or 9 months fight. And after that, we started fighting with American bureaucracy. And after a whole year of our hard work with Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Ministry of Health. Yeah, so really, basically, the first result is I'm the first Ukrainian on American soil in the last decade receiving treatment in the military hospital. We basically built a foundation for the military healthcare cooperation between our countries. And already we received the answer from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine that there is 10 more people already agreed politically to come here to exchange expertise on hard cases. The second project of ours is basically direct support for our Ukrainian veterans in Ukraine. There are a bunch of people right now, just last week, basically 2 weeks ago, I were talking to a guy in Odessa. He had like severely burns all over his body. He had double amputation of his hands and complete loss of sight. This is pretty complex, right? So, and this type of cases struggle a lot. We're trying to build some kind of rehabilitation pathway so they are not just swimming in a boat in the middle of the ocean by themselves. And basically build some kind of road forward. Also, we provided them some rehabilitational gear and stuff like that. The third key project for now is basically we are doing research. It's an ongoing research that dedicated for severe cases. And that's something I want to focus today to just talk a little bit more about that. Next slide. We basically partnered with one of the most profound universities in our capital that have pretty strong sociological scientists there, and we started doing the research program that actually it's the first research program in Ukraine dedicated completely to complex scenarios, right? So three key groups are basically the people with double, triple, and quadruple amputations, which is tough. The second group is spinal cord injuries. Those people just basically at the lower part of the body paralyzing, depending on the level of trauma. The third group is blind people, on which we also going to focus today because there is not too much time to talk about everything. Next slide. According to the statistics, we know that, according to Statistical World Health Organization, we know that approximately 4% of global population have complete blindness or severe traumas of their sight, where people losing their functional sight, basically. In Ukraine, this amount before the war was pretty same. It was around 5%. In literal numbers, it's somewhere near 2 million of people in Ukraine. So that's a lot of people, right? Before the war, they were doing some type of activities for the rehabilitation, but most of those activities were concentrated in non-governmental spheres. So basically, there was no programs for blind people that are adults to get rehabilitation. Next slide.
Moment of disruption, blindness.
When the war started, everything changed, right? And we were talking about risks a little bit. So obviously, risks are rising, and realized risks are rising too. And basically, our foundation started working on statistics. We inquired the National Healthcare Agency to provide us the medical records that are collected pretty precisely in Ukraine, because we have centralized repository for all hospitals of Ukraine that collecting all the medical information of all Ukrainians. So we have pretty reliable source of the information, and we basically inquired that information and started working with ministries to figure out what is the numbers now during the warfare. And we found something we never expected, because everybody said, oh, you guys have pretty rare cases. Well, actually, they are not that rare, unfortunately. During the warfare, especially after 2023, when the kamikaze drones was largely introduced on the front lines, we see that compound annual growth rate of the blindness diagnosis in hospitals rise from 6% to 21%. It's complete blindness. Especially in 2023, we see that the amount of people rise 30%, because basically this fact is supporting the hypothesis of kamikaze drones affection of people's sight, because kamikaze drones are basically flying IDs. We know from American statistics in Iraq, Afghanistan, which Ukraine was also part of Iraq campaign. We know we have the same statistic, like 80-90% of military traumas of infantry was IEDs, landmines. And basically people were losing their lower part of like legs, and that was 90% of the cases. Now we have one of the most efficient new type of weaponry, which is kamikaze drones. And this is basically flying IEDs. And because they are flying, they are producing completely new pattern of traumatization. So if we're talking about Iraq, that was losing your leg, in the worst case scenario, 2 legs maybe. In the case of flying IED, it can blow up on the level of your head, so you can lose both of your arms, you can have traumatic brain injury, you can lose your sight. Your lungs can be damaged severely, and that's exactly statistics that we see in our National Healthcare Service reports. Next slide. So the same statistics, even worse statistics we have with severe partial loss of sight. The percentages there even higher. So the CAGR amounting in 31%, not 20. Next slide. So after that, after we discovered that there is pretty high demand for the actual rehabilitation, we started researching the supply of the services of rehabilitation for those kind of cases. And we realized we have really bad picture, and that my experience, my personal experience, is pretty depicting the state of art really well. Basically, 0 respondents that we asked in our research said that they received any kind of blind rehabilitation in the hospitals, or from any medical facilities that are governmentally related. Unfortunately, and as we understand, most of the information they are receiving from their friends, family, internet, and some NGOs that appeared and was founded basically right after 2022, 2023. So most of effective NGOs on the market, they are pretty new. And what we see, their efforts remain local. So we are talking about thousands and thousands of people. So it's like approximately 40,000 of people are blinded during the warfare times. As we can see on the slide, there are approximately like less than 500 people received totally for the last 3 years any kind of like small services regarding the blind rehab. And most of those services is usually 1-2 week short programs that are kind of introductory for those people. So basically, people are left for themselves. They're doing rehabilitation by themselves with their families. As I said before, there are a bunch of organizations that appeared. This is good, but they're new. They are disconnected between each other. There even some amount of competition going on between them. Like, hey, like we want this client, but it's a fantasy competition, obviously, because we have thousands that needs that stuff. So why we ended up being in this in this situation? Next slide. Basically, we have we focus on three key challenges that are tactical for our organization right now. First challenge is, as I said before, the absence of information. My personal experience when I was in the hospital, basically, nobody actually told me that I can ever get rehabilitated, like that I can buy white cane for blind people, that I can independently walk through the city and through the corridors of my hospital, that I can, eat by myself, do all the stuff by myself. But blind people can live successful lives. For example, the Prime Minister of Britain, one of them, was completely blind, which is a pretty successful guy, I guess. And this is something we are not seeing those great examples in Ukraine. They're not publicly available. You cannot Google it. They are not on the surface, unfortunately. The solution to that is basically our current activity. We're trying to build the huge register of service providers on the market. So this is basically any kind of people that have any kind of professional training in mobility and orientation for blind people and technology for blind and any kind of stuff. So it's pretty complex task because we're trying now to collect data from all over the Ukraine. The second challenge is the absence of proper kind of. Sorry?
Accessibility to
the second one is the absence of accessibility to the services. So if you're living in a big city, you may find some NGOs that I showed already on the map. That's those red dots that was there. It's basically big cities. It's a capital. It's huge towns on the west and part of Ukrainian. But basically, the third problem that we have is the absence of people that have expertise in this domain. And to solve this problem, we are now focusing on reaching to the kids' schools for blind. They're all over the country. They are placed in all the cities, all the small towns. There is at least one school for blind in each town. And those facilities are not working with the healthcare medical facilities. They're completely under different realms. One under Ministry of Education, the second is Ministry of Healthcare. And basically, we're trying now to lobby the incorporation of those schools into the medical facilities, because those professionals can basically come to any hospital in their city to help those blinded people start doing their rehabilitation. There are also a strategical focus. Next slide. The first is bureaucratical mess on the level of government. That's the main problem, because we have kind of social-oriented government, and the responsibility for the blind rehabilitation is dispersed between 4 different ministries. It's a Ministry of Healthcare, Education. The second is Education. The third is a Ministry of Veteran Affairs. And the fourth one is Ministry of Social Relations, which is crazy. That's exactly the reason why it's not working, because there is no established policy in place, and the responsibility is just dispersed too much. So the solution that we're trying now to do is basically to interconnect all NGOs on the market and build one coalition that can create strong political lobby to actually push the legislation for the blind people to change the system systematically. The second step, what we are doing is the second problem is, in fact, a budgeting process. So again, because it's dispersed between lots of ministries, it's really complex. It's like, for example, you can receive some great services as a career consultancy for the blind, but if you're not receiving the actual rehabilitation, you're not just reaching to this point. And that's exactly the problem. That financing is budgeting of the government is concentrated not in the right spots, especially during the war times. So we're trying to basically change that. Currently we're working with presidential office because we already pushed to assemble to the point where a working group in the presidential office was established that completely dedicated for the problem of the blind people right now. And we're trying to push, again, the changes to the legislation budgeting process regarding that. The last, so the last problem is, again, the biggest problem is the absence of professionals. So we are working right now with the university as that preparing the specialists related to the field of blind people. It's orientation and mobility specialists, and has built basically the whole certification program for those type of people. And so just to conclude, here in the US, we try and our main goal is to collect the expertise of American society that is building the systems for the last 80 years after the Second World War, and bring this expertise to Ukraine, and also exchange the expertise we're seeing with this completely new severe cases that are new for even American military healthcare, and to bring this expertise, how to build the medical protocols of treatment of those people to the United States. So it's can be bilateral cooperation between our countries. That's our main focus for right now. I think we can come to the questions part.
I had a sister-in-law who lost her sight when she was 11 years old, and the Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind is an organization here in the States that helps people. Have you all been in touch with them? Or do you know other organizations like them here that might be willing to help?
So that's exactly one of our needs right now, and why we are, for example, here today. We are already reached to a bunch of lighthouses all over the country, and we observed that they do not have expertise in military traumas, obviously, because it's civilian organizations. We also reached the National Industries for Blind. It's a huge organization in the States that use the Department of Defense of America budget to finance the jobs for blind people, because all the businesses have stigma to blind people that they cannot work, they cannot perform. And this organization in the States is basically dedicated to teach blind people so they are prepared for their working environment. And we already met with a bunch of those organizations to see their expertise. I think it's actually great. This is the idea that we want to bring to Ukraine. But we have not reached yet to the Veteran Affairs. We know they have for something like 6-week program of rehabilitation for blind veterans. We're struggling right now to connect to Veteran Affairs. We're struggling to connect with states. There are departments of rehabilitation in every state. Rehabilitation services called DOORS, and we also open to any kind of NGOs that are working in America to maybe dive a little bit deeper in actual customer experience in your country.
I wanted to add that I'm trying to get Andrii and Alina connected to the Lions Club, because that, of course, like polio is our, big issue. Blindness and sight impairment is Lions Club. I think they'd be amazing partners for Andrii and Alina.
Okay, we have 1 minute to close our meeting. Thank you so much, Andrii. Thank you so much, Alina, for coming today and talking to us. So our appreciation, we have for each of you a little gift of a token of appreciation. This is a Rotary coin, and we appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing. So if you will have more questions of our guests afterwards, please continue to talking to them later on. And yes.